Sid woke to white ceiling tiles and antiseptic air. Her throat was sandpaper, neck bandaged, ribs screaming under compression wraps. She tried to sit up. Mistake. Pain seared through her torso. "Easy, Sergeant Park," a nurse appeared. "You've been out for 36 hours. The bullet fragmented, tore through your upper trapezius muscle and missed the jugular by 2 millimeters. The wall is compromised." Sid's hand went to her neck, found gauze, thick layers of it. "Where is she?" The nurse looked confused. "Who?" "The Prime Minister. Is she safe?" "Oh, yes, she's fine. She wasn't injured." The nurse adjusted the IV drip. "You saved her life. It's all over the news." Sid's eyes closed. Catherine was safe. That was all that mattered. "You have visitors waiting. IOPC wants to speak with you when you're cleared." Sid's eyes snapped open. IOPC? Standard procedure following a police firearm discharge. The nurse smiled. Meant to be reassuring, wasn't. "They've been very patient." Sid looked around the room, private, secure, but empty. No flowers, no cards, no Catherine. Just silence. The IOPC officer was in his early 50s, grey suit, greyer disposition. He sat beside Sid's hospital bed with a tablet and a voice recorder. "Sergeant Park, I'm Mr. Harrison, lead investigator for the IOPC." Sid tried to sit up, wincing. "I know who you are. I've spoken to your doctors. They say you're conscious and lucid." He placed the recorder on the bedside table. "I've contacted the Police Federation. Your rep is en route, but I don't need a rep." Harrison paused. "Sergeant, this is a fatal shooting investigation. It is standard procedure to have legal counsel or a Federation friend present. I strongly advise you wait." "I followed protocol. The principal is safe. The threat is neutralized." Sid's voice was raspy but hard. "I don't need a lawyer to tell the truth. Let's just get this done." Harrison studied her for a moment, assessing her state of mind. Finally, he nodded. "Very well." He tapped the recorder. A small red light blinked on. "Interview with Sergeant Sidney Park. Time is 1400 hours. Sergeant Park has waived her right to a legal representation." He looked up. "Walk me through your decision-making process, from the moment you identified the threat." Sid recounted it. Every second. The waiter, the wrong uniform cut, the hand in the jacket, the gun. 3 seconds to decide. Harrison listened, made notes. His face revealed nothing. "And after you neutralized the threat in the service corridor, you lost consciousness." "Yes. But the Prime Minister was with you when backup arrived. She was supposed to evacuate to the loading bay. Instead, she came back for you." Harrison looked up. "Why do you think she did that?" Sid's jaw tightened. "You'd have to ask her." "I did." He swiped his tablet. "She said, and I quote, 'Sergeant Park was critically wounded protecting me. I wasn't going to leave her to die alone.'" He paused. "Seems unusually personal for the Prime Minister. People react differently under stress." "Indeed." Harrison leaned back. "Tell me about your relationship with the Prime Minister." "I'm assigned to her protection detail." "Were assigned to her protection detail. Past tense. You've been suspended from duty pending this investigation." The words hit like a second bullet. Catherine sat in the back of the armored Range Rover. New security detail, new protocols. Everything sterile and professional, and wrong. She stared at the empty seat where Sid used to sit, where Sid would scan the streets with those watchful eyes, where Sid would catch her looking and offer that almost smile. Gone. Catherine closed her eyes, exhaled shakily. Her hand traced the leather seat, still cold. "Mum?" The new officer, Robin, spoke from the front. "We're approaching the gates. I need a moment. Mum, we can't stop on Whitehall. We're exposed here. I said give me a moment." Robin went silent. Catherine pressed her palm flat against the seat, imagined she could feel warmth there. But Sid wasn't here. Catherine had sent a card, though. It was nothing more than an official, impersonal formality. "The Cabinet Office wishes you a swift recovery. Your service is appreciated." Appreciated. Like Sid hadn't taken bullets meant for her. Like Catherine wasn't. "Mum, we really need to move. Police are holding traffic." Catherine opened her eyes. "Go." The car pulled through the heavy iron gates of Downing Street, past the armed police stationed inside. Catherine stepped out. Cameras flashed from the press pen opposite. She smiled, waved. Inside, she was screaming.
1 week later, they called Sid back. Conference room at Scotland Yard. Harrison, 2 other IOPC investigators. Video camera recording. "Sergeant Park, let's talk about your response time." Sid sat perfectly still. "I responded within 3 seconds of identifying the threat." "Actually," Harrison pulled up footage, security camera, National Gallery, time-stamped. "You responded in 7 seconds. 4 seconds after identifying the threat, you were standing still. Then you moved. I was assessing, or hesitating." Sid's hands curled into fists under the table. "I don't hesitate." "The video suggests otherwise." Harrison froze the frame. 7 seconds is a lifetime in a shooting, Sergeant. People die in 7 seconds. The principal is alive. By luck, not skill." He leaned forward. "Let's talk about what happened after the threat was neutralized. You collapsed. The Prime Minister came back for you. Paramedics reported that when they arrived, the Prime Minister was on her knees, speaking to you in what appeared to be Korean." Sid said nothing. "The Prime Minister doesn't speak Korean." "She said my name, once. Your birth name, Hannah." Harrison let that hang in the air. "That name is classified deep vetting data. Even her private secretary doesn't have access to it. So, how does the Prime Minister know it?" "I must have mentioned it." "When? In the 6 weeks you'd been assigned to her detail?" He pulled up more notes. "According to other officers, the Prime Minister barely spoke to you. Standard for her. She's not known for fraternizing with staff. Maybe she made an exception. Why?" "That is the Prime Minister's prerogative." Harrison didn't let up. For the next 90 minutes, he dismantled her timeline with surgical precision. He pulled up building logs from November 7th, demanding to know why a standard 30-minute sweep turned into a 6-hour stay inside the residence. Another week passed in a blur of painkillers and silence. Then the summons came. 1400 hours. Black cab pulled up to the security gates at the Cabinet Office. Sid paid the driver, stepped out onto Whitehall. Grey day, cold, London doing what London does, existing with indifferent efficiency around the machinery of government. Sid was here for bureaucracy, final debrief with the Cabinet Office security team, NDA signing, box ticking, the administrative clean-up of nearly dying. She wore civilian clothes, dark jeans, black jacket, neck bandaged under a scarf, ribs still taped, moving carefully but moving. The security checkpoint was routine: show ID, get scanned, sign in. Then she heard it. Sudden surge of voices, camera shutters, crowd movement. "That's her! Sergeant Park! Sergeant Park, over here! The bodyguard, she's here!" Sid turned. The press had been waiting, dozens of them, photographers, reporters, cameras, microphones, a coordinated ambush. Someone had leaked her arrival.
They surged forward, a wall of bodies and lenses and shouted questions. The security barriers buckled. Metropolitan police officers scrambled to hold the line. "Sergeant Park, how does it feel to save the Prime Minister's life? Are you in a relationship with Catherine Spencer Gray? Did you hesitate before engaging the shooter?" Sid backed up, hands raised, non-threatening, professional, don't escalate. But they kept coming. A photographer lunged, his telephoto lens, massive, heavy, swung forward, slammed into Sid's shoulder. The impact radiated down, caught the edge of her neck wound. White-hot pain blinded her. Sid's vision blurred. She staggered. Someone grabbed her jacket, yanking, trying to turn her toward their camera. Another shove from behind, hands everywhere, microphones thrust in her face, bodies pressing, crushing. The heavy lens slammed into the soft tissue at the base of her neck. Sid felt a sharp, sickening pop. The weakened artery wall finally gave way. The wound burst open. "Get back! Move! Armed police!"
Catherine Spencer Gray stands before a sleek, secure monitor integrated into her desk setup. The CCTV footage of the media scrum plays on a loop. The ambush, the photographer's lunge, the sickening impact, the dark stain blossoming on Sid's scarf. Catherine's face is a mask of tightly controlled fury and cold dread. Northern Ireland talks, budget deficit, diplomatic crisis in the Baltics, and now a public security breach on Whitehall. She closes her eyes for a beat, pressing her fingers against her temples, fighting for composure. She exhales a slow, shaky breath. She speaks into a secure comms device. "Get Miss Park to the residence immediately. Direct her to the anteroom unescorted. Clear the space. No medical personnel until I give the order. This is a top priority security debrief regarding the press leak, and I want the media scrum footage timestamped and secured. Now." She terminates the call, her hand trembling slightly as she lowers it. Her gaze sweeps the monitors again, settling on the last frame of Sid, collapsing. Her jaw tightens.
The machinery of Downing Street obeyed instantly. The heavy black door slammed shut against the noise of Whitehall, cutting off the world and leaving Sid in the sudden, jarring quiet of the secure zone. The residence guard, a woman Sid didn't recognize, was professional, courteous, led her through corridors Sid knew by heart but no longer had clearance to walk alone. They reached a small anteroom, boot room technically, where staff entered, coat hooks on the wall, boot rack, umbrella stand, service entrance to the private quarters. "Wait here, please. The Prime Minister has been notified." The guard left. Sid stood there, alone, blood dripping onto the tile floor, adrenaline finally draining away. She looked down, her hands trembled. The wound wasn't just reopened, it was screaming. Sid's legs gave out. She slid down the wall, sat on the cold floor, back against the radiator, heat seeping through her jacket, but doing nothing for the ice in her veins. Just breathe, just wait. Catherine would send someone, a medic, security, someone official and distant, who would patch her up and send her away. That's how this worked now. The door flew open. Catherine stood there. Her eyes found Sid, locked on. "Oh my God!" She moved, fast, dropped to her knees beside Sid, hands hovering, not touching, like she was afraid Sid might shatter. "Miss Park, your neck." "Press," Sid managed. "They were waiting. Someone leaked." "I know." Catherine's voice was shaking, forcing the professional tone over the panic. "I just got the call. The Cabinet Office. They said you were here, that you'd been injured. I thought—" She stopped. "I thought it was another shooting." Voices in the corridor, security, staff, people who would find them like this. "Ma'am, medical is en route." A protection officer stepped into the doorway, radio in hand. Catherine spun on him, shielding Sid's body with her own. Do you want the press to broadcast a bleeding officer before we've secured the narrative? No, ma'am, but protocol. Then give me 10 seconds. Catherine's voice was low, lethal. 10 seconds to stabilize the visual before you let the world in. Close the door. The officer hesitated, then nodded. Heavy door slamming shut. The noise of the hallway cut off instantly. Sudden, ringing silence. Catherine turned back. The professional mask disintegrated. She didn't speak. She didn't check the wound. Her hands grabbed Sid's lapels, yanking her forward away from the radiator. "You idiot," she hissed, voice trembling with adrenaline. "You absolute—" Sid looked up, dazed. Catherine. Catherine crashed her mouth onto Sid's. It wasn't gentle. It was a collision, a desperate, terrified claim. Catherine's fingers tangled in Sid's hair, forcing her head back, deepening the kiss until it was nothing but breath. For 5 seconds, the world outside the boot room didn't exist. Sharp knock at the door. "Ma'am, medics are here." They broke apart. Her thumb brushed the corner of Sid's swollen lip. "Don't you dare die on me," she whispered. Then she pulled back, wiped her mouth with the back of her hand, stood up. She smoothed her skirt, fixed her hair. The Ice Queen returned. Enter.
3 days later, a glass-walled interview room. Scotland Yard. Harrison sits on one side. Commander Stone sits on the other. Harrison closed the file. The IOPC has concluded its preliminary review. Given the high profile of the principal, we expedited the finding. Sid said nothing. Commander Stone leaned forward. The gallery shooting was justified, and regarding the incident on Whitehall, we traced the leak to the Cabinet Office. It was an operational hazard created by a civilian aide. You were cleared of any misconduct. Sid looked at the file, then at Stone. She reached into her pocket, pulled out her warrant card, placed it gently on the metal table, slid it towards Stone. "I'm resigning." "Miss Park, you've just been cleared. I'm resigning my post with Protection Command. I can't do my job anymore." "You just proved you can." "I walked into a media scrum with a compromised artery. Standard protocol was to refuse the summons until medically cleared. I didn't refuse." She paused. "You understand this means leaving the Metropolitan Police Service?" "It shows a blind spot. A protection officer who can't assess their own fitness for duty puts the principal at risk. I've lost my objectivity, sir." Stone stared. "You're throwing away your career." "No, I'm choosing a different one." She walked out. 6 months later. Paris, European Leadership Summit. Catherine Spencer-Gray entered the hotel flanked by security. New detail, expanded team, and Sid. She was no longer Met Police. She had been seconded to Europol's high-value asset protection unit, assigned to coordinate the strategic perimeter for the summit. She wasn't part of Catherine's personal detail anymore, but her presence carried international authority. Most officers operating at this level were seasoned veterans, their hair already touched with grey. Sid was 28. That made her an anomaly, but her decorated record had earned her place among them. To the world, she was a rising star in international security. To the protection officers, she was the legend who had taken 2 bullets in the National Gallery and refused to die. Catherine glanced at her as they crossed the lobby. Didn't smile. The look said everything. Late afternoon, break between sessions. They stepped into a lift. Catherine's protection officer, Gabe Dixon, 10 years on the job, moved to follow them inside. His eyes went to Sid first, assessing. Sid gave him a microscopic nod. Clear, I've got her. Dixon had worked with Sid for 3 months now. He'd read the classified reports from the National Gallery. He knew what Sid was. Dixon's hand came up to his earpiece. "Control, PM is proceeding to floor 4 with Liaison Officer Park. I'm securing the landing." He stepped back, released the door. The doors closed. The lift started moving. 45 seconds. Sid didn't reach for her yet. She glanced up at the ceiling corner. Camera. She shifted her stance, smooth, putting her back to the lens and shielding Catherine in her shadow, a perfect blind spot created in plain sight. Catherine watched her, smiled. 40 seconds, Sid said quietly. Catherine's hand gripped Sid's lapel. "Then don't waste them." Sid pulled her in, kissed her. 30 seconds. The only truth in a building full of lies.